Hello. I wanted to send you a formal greeting from my new state of Colorado, where my husband and I just moved couple weeks ago. Man, time is just weird right now. We moved from Syracuse and lost 2 hours and then daylight savings. Anyway, it's been crazy. And I am here with some insight that I wanted to share with you that I think would be helpful for everybody, that this time is being so intense. It's intense, geopolitically, geographically, energetically, astrologically. There is so much going on that a lot of us very often will say, I'm being tested right now, or I'm feeling tested right now. Sorry about the shaking. I'm still figuring out how to get this camera to be steady. So, we feel tested. And a lot of times that's what we'll say, even in the spiritual community, right? That is a word where, I'm being tested right now. And I wanted to actually offer you a slightly different tweak in terms of how to understand it and how to speak about it for yourself. Because when you say I'm being tested, right, that is something that comes from outside of you. You are powerless in a way, right? You kind of say to yourself implicitly, oh, it's coming from out there. I have no control over it except in how I respond. And there is truth to that. However, if you go deeper, if you connect to deeper truths that we know about, ourselves being creators, ourselves being the universe, right? It's not the universe testing you. You are the universe. And so what's really going on is that you are testing you. You test yourself. You test yourself by energetically setting up external situations and conditions and challenges that you then have to respond to and deal with. However, you are the one doing it. So it may seem like I'm quibbling over semantics, but the thing is, it's not about the language necessarily. It's about your perception. It's about how you see whether you are empowered or a victim. And that is like 99% of our work has to do with that, right? Ownership of what you create in the world, what you create in your life. So I'll give you an example from this journey that my husband and I just took. Very simple, and it's going to kind of seem like a little bit of a no-brainer, but I want to offer this to you so that you have a way of relating it to something real. So we had a 20-foot U-Haul. We were driving from Syracuse to Colorado, a 4-day drive. And who knows what possessed us to move in the middle of February during the snowiest winter of all time in Syracuse. I just found out Syracuse got 110 inches of snow this winter. It's insane. But we just really wanted to go, and so we went. It was a very, very intense first day of driving. And at a certain point, we stopped at a rest area, and our windshield wipers stopped working. Now, winter, overspray, salt on the roads, right? Even if it's not actively snowing or raining, which it was periodically, it's really dangerous if you can't see out your windshield, obviously, right? So, and this was our first day. We had 3 hotels booked across 3 nights in, 400 miles apart from each other. Like if one day doesn't go well and something has to, everything just gets screwed up royally, right? So here we are at this rest area. We're both feeling all of this intense stress. We're trying to help each other. We're not taking it out on each other or anything like that. We're having to wait for roadside assistance. And it was one of those moments where we both felt tested, right? It was a test. And we both, in each our own ways, realized what we were testing ourselves about, right? I won't speak for my husband because he'll speak for himself. I will speak for myself. my experience was that I was making the most enormous leap in my entire life. I was picking up all of my stuff, all of our stuff, and, leaving. I'm not leaving everything behind, because the people you don't really leave behind, because there are ways to stay connected fully. But I was leaving behind the East Coast, where I'd lived the entire time I'd been in this country since I was 11 years old. Leaving behind clients, leaving behind an old paradigm of working, leaving behind old habits and behaviors, leaving behind a lot of what was familiar. I was miserable in Syracuse. It was a boring place to be, and it was without driving somewhere, you're stuck. There's nothing to do besides it being a very snowy winter, and you just didn't even want to go anywhere. But I was leaving behind a lot of that stuff that I didn't want, but I was also leaving behind what was familiar, and that's really scary. And I had been acknowledging that fear. I had been working with that fear. Also, the fear of stepping into a completely different way of working is a big deal, obviously, right? I am expanding who I am. I'm expanding what I offer in the world to match who I actually am and what I actually have to offer, where my work previously was a lot more narrow and a lot more stifling, and I was stifling myself. So here I am sitting in the cab of this truck, and all of this is the truth, right? How do you process all that in a moment? And you don't, right? And this is where I'm sitting there and going, oh my God, you know what? You know what? I still have a set of keys to our apartment that's now sublet to someone else. We have we've given away all our other keys and everything, but because we had like an extra set and we wanted to lock up before we left and all of this stuff, I had kept that extra set of keys. I don't know why. We were not planning on coming back. Nobody needed those keys. I had them for some sort of like holding on to the old reason. And they were sitting in that little cuppy thing in the door. I was like, yeah, I'm going to throw them out, because we said we would destroy the last set of keys. And I was holding on to them, not planning on coming back, like I said, none of that. And I looked at them and I was like, this is not a small thing. This was not me just, I'll throw them out later. It wasn't that. I was still energetically holding on to the past in a tiny little way that made me feel like, well, if we had to go back, why? Somebody had already sublet that apartment. It doesn't matter, right? Your coping mechanisms don't have to make sense. This one did not. And I realized in that moment that having held on to that set of keys was me still being a little bit scared, very scared, but holding on to something. And I realized I had to do something right then. We had time. We were waiting for roadside assistance, and I took the keys and I went and I did a little tiny releasing ritual, ceremony, whatever you want to call it, with a freaking trash can in the middle of somewhere. I don't even remember what state we were in. I think we were in Ohio, maybe. Doesn't even matter. I had to do like a little releasing ceremony, and not just toss them, but actually create an intention and say, I am releasing this. I am willingly stepping into the unknown, even though I am scared. Here we go, right? So I offer this example at length because it was very easily the kind of moment where I could have said, oh, we're being tested, and how do we respond to this test, and do we stay calm, and do we just let spirit provide us with, whatever assistance we need, etc., right? And yes, that was true. And by the way, 2 minutes after I did that ceremony, the roadside assistance person came and fixed our thing. We were we were literally only about 2 hours behind. That's it, right? I could have said, oh, I'm being tested, and how do I respond to this test? But when you go deeper, and I went deeper, and I said, how am I testing me? And that's where you see the truth. So I will stop here. I would love to know if you relate to this and whether you have examples of ways where you test yourself, but you actually end up saying, oh, I'm being tested. I invite you to reflect on this. This is a deep one. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very, very excited to see what unfolds. I'm excited to meet people all over the world in my new work, and to connect to fellow Coloradoans. Anyway, many, many blessings, and see you in the next video.